Back on the bus, we're cruising along to our next destination in the town of Pushkin in the outskirts of St. Petersburg. It's a palace called Catherine Palace. And as you'll see in a moment, it's the grandest of all the palaces in the outskirts of St. Petersburg. Along the way, there's plenty of entrepreneurs selling their beads and bubbles and trinkets. We'll have time for some shopping when we're done with our tour of the palace, but for now we're heading right inside, past the Royal Chapel, to see the great facade. It's 1,000 feet long. It's huge. It rivals Versailles. Built originally for Catherine I, the wife of Peter the Great, and subsequently enlarged under all the different reigns of the czars, Elizabeth, Catherine II, Catherine the Great, right up until Nicholas II, the last emperor of Russia, who loved the palace and spent half the year. The floors are so precious, you've got to put on these guards so you don't scuff the floor. The palace itself is very well maintained, and all of the damage that was inflicted during World War II by the Nazis has been repaired, and the palace is looking as good as new. Once again, we're fortunate to have Olga to tell us all about it.
Peter the Great presented a small estate to his wife, Catherine I. She wanted to make a pleasant surprise to him, and while he was at war, she ordered her court architect to design a very pretty palace. So by the time Peter returned, she welcomed him to the newly built palace, which was charming, which was very pretty, and they spent some happy days here. Then, after Catherine I and Peter I had died, their daughter, Elizabeth I of Russia, invited her court architect, Rastrelli, to design 4 palaces. One for herself in St. Petersburg, in the city. One was the Winter Palace, where you were, the same architect, and 2 palaces in the countryside. You saw today Peter's Palace, the yellow one, named after Peter, but meant for Elizabeth's summertime, and also Catherine's Palace, in honor of her mother.
Oh my gosh.
Very luxurious decorations. In Europe, the same style was known as Rococo too. So the history here is, first of all, the art of Baroque. The art of Baroque of Russia was known in Europe as Rococo too. And it's very decorative art, very beautiful very beautiful interiors, and the difference from what you may see in other palaces in Europe, the difference from the Rococo II style, is that in Russian Baroque there are no repeating details. For example, in Europe they would make the same flower and put it in many places in the same building. Here the flowers are all different. The petals are all different. And this is what adds to the charm of this style. It looks like it's all exuberant, all sort of moving and vibrant, because there's no similarity. Even if you look at the cupids have slight difference, you know. Something is always different. They look as if they are symmetrically located, but there is always some difference in the faces, in the position, a little bit of a change, you know. The leg is positioned slightly differently. The size of the hand is something here is different, you know. Following French traditions of Versailles designs. Now, their room, because it is so narrow compared to how long it is, needed some corrections from the architect. And they made their room wider using lots of mirrors. So the mirrors here elusively widen the space. And another very typical feature of the Baroque style were painted ceilings and inlaid floors. Here the floors are made of very valuable woods, mostly palm tree, a little bit of mahogany, and the ceiling was recreated in 1980s. It took about 5 years for the artists to complete this ceiling, and if you look a little bit to the right, you will see there's a woman sitting, Catherine the First of Russia. So this is what the room is all about. So we are moving now to see some of the other rooms.
This amazing Great Hall is the focal point and largest room of the palace, over 9,000 square feet. It was designed in the 1750s by Rastrelli and its arrival to the Hall of Mirrors in Versailles. In addition to the numerous gold statues, there's beautiful stucco work, and from the palace there's a nice view of the gardens that we'll soon be exploring as we enter the first of several dining rooms.
Well, so now, ladies and gentlemen, we are in the suite of a woman, member of the family. So in the 18th century, there were several women who ruled Russia. Elizabeth I, Anna I, Catherine I, and Catherine II. So that was quite a long period of time. The food was consumed non-stop. It was not that they had any set hours for meals. The palace had 30 dining rooms, and this is how usually in such dining rooms the arrangement would be. They would always have fruit, pastries, some lemonade, some drinks, and that went on from early morning until late at night. Catherine II, when she became the Tsarina, had very liberal attitude towards court. She allowed people to do very much. She was not a very demanding and strict ruler. And so it was like a festivity going on from morning to evening, you know. And sometimes when she would walk through the rooms, she would see people sitting and eating whom she didn't even know. Okay? So to her it was sort of the lifestyle. But she herself was very strict to her own work or work style. She would wake up around 5 in the morning, go for horse riding for 1 hour, and then after very little breakfast, she only drank very strong coffee, extremely strong, and historians now try to somehow exaggerate a little bit. Her life are legends to in many cases. So they say that she would use 1 pound coffee for a cup of coffee, or 2 pounds or 3 pounds, you know. So it's difficult to know exactly, but still she liked very strong coffee, and then she would go to work in one of her offices here, signing documents, meeting with people. So we will go to see some more of her room.
22 of the rooms of Catherine's palace have been restored to their original condition, and we get to see them all on our walking tour with Olga.
Now we are in another dining room. You will see several more. This is the grand dining room. Again, it has some romantic decorations, the grotto, the set, the dinner set is hunter's set or hunting dinner set, and this was the former property of the palace. Some of the still lifes which you see were recently restored, but they made them from the original works of art by German and Dutch masters. And the room has very beautiful stove, decorated in the Dutch tiles. Such stoves were very fashionable from the reign of Peter the Great, and they continued using them in Russian residences till the beginning of the 20th century. So please follow me further on. You see a stove in each room because the court would move to the summer palaces, and they decided each year what month they would spend where. So of course, the servants were here non-stop, and work was done and it was maintained very well. But in the summertime, sometimes spring and autumn, if they came here, it would be quite cold. So stoves were must in every residence. This room is the red pilaster room, and the room has some original furniture belonging to Catherine. The chess table having the ivory and red lacquer chess figures, and the bureau for her documents. And this is a green pilaster room. So as you see, the furniture is not all here. So this is the room which is being restored, and I don't think they will finish the restoration soon. Well, and now, ladies and gentlemen, we are in the portrait room. This is sort of a portrait family gallery, and here you may see the portraits of some of the Tsar Nicholas I of Russia. To your left is Catherine the Great, or Catherine II, of whom we were talking about this morning. And on the right is her son, Paul I of Russia. So Paul I of Russia was a very interesting character. Now we are stopping here because this is the beginning of the suite of Paul. Actually, there was very big dislike between Paul and his mother. And the reason for that was, you remember, Catherine really hated her husband, Peter III, and he reciprocated the sentiment. Naturally, their son was born to a very unhealthy environment in the family. So here is another very pretty looking room of Paul's suite. He lived in these rooms, and they were specially decorated for the period of time when Paul I, or Paul, married Maria, German princess. Paul, as you remember from his sculptural portrait in the Hermitage, was very short and very ugly. He moved in a very funny way, his body was jerking, he was very tense, but he was a real intelligent person. He read lots of history, and he was very witty. If he were not so paranoid, he had constant fear of being killed. He was talking about his assassination to everybody. And he gradually, step by step, he conditioned his courtiers to really murdering him. Because when you talk about him, something, then it happens sometimes, Now we move to another room. Handmade Russian style, which was made by Russian serfs. So you can see how tiny the stitches are. It's all made in the hand-operated looms, and for the reproduction they used the original looms to make it look authentic. So some pieces of silk here are authentic, others are reproduction. For example, the sofa has authentic silk, and the walls have slightly different color. The walls are more reproduced silk. So this is still the room of Paul I. This is the former bedroom of the palace of Paul, Paul's bedroom. That was the place of where Paul and his young wife spent their honeymoon, again, before their exile to the other residence. The columns here are very unusual. They were extremely expensive. They could even compare the weight of each column to the similar weight in gold. They are made in porcelain, and the Tsar's family made it a point to have everything the most expensive for this room. So now the columns do not look as probably impressive as they were in the past, but to the Tsars they wanted to be extravagant. So this is the point in having everything the most expensive here. This is the classroom or study of Alexander I of Russia. The reason why they have several rooms of Alexander here is that two of Paul's sons were Russian Tsars, Alexander I and Nicholas I. And you are well familiar with these names already. So Alexander I was taken away from his parents as a baby. Catherine never tolerated having her grandchildren next to her son. Now we are in a very interesting room. It is called the picture room. one of the most famous rooms of the palace. And here the famous paintings of Dutch, German, and Flemish masters are used as wallpaper. What mattered in this picture gallery was not the artistic school, but the size of the picture. And that was one of the probably attitudes of the Tsars. They had too much of everything. So this is a picture gallery, but a very chaotic one. Again, you can see two tiled stoves. The room would be used for ball parties, for concerts, for receptions. And again, they are using here very different woods: ebony tree, mahogany, rosewood. And this very beautiful tree, this one, it's rosewood, mahogany, palm tree. And it's all sort of inlaid. It's not painted. But they make pieces of wood shaped like flowers everywhere. So this room is a legendary room, and probably many of you heard about it. This is the former amber room. Oh. Amber is the semi-precious stone which is found in the Baltic Sea shores, made into jewelry. And in Russian palace of the Tsars, they had the room where the walls were faced in amber panels. Birds, flowers, made in amber. And the color range of amber was from dark greens to dark reds, with all yellows and browns in between. When it was sunshine, it was sparkling, it was really shining. Oriental art in the Tsar's palace here. So these items were originally brought to the palace by the foreign ambassadors, by Russian ambassadors to the east, and they were in different rooms, of course, but they brought them all together and arranged this exhibition for the Oriental art. So we will walk slowly to the last room of this suite now. Well, and this room is more Turkish influence, as you feel, Turkish. And the reason why they have quite a lot of Turkish art in the palace is because Catherine the Great got the country involved into the Russo-Turkish War in the last quarter of the 18th century. That was of vital importance to Russia because through that the country got the shores of the Black Sea. So now this is the end of our tour here, and we are walking downstairs to take off the shoes and do some shopping and relaxing in the park grounds.
And of course, conveniently located right here at the exit is the gift shop. These former communists have become pretty good capitalists. You can get a variety of icons or crystal, inexpensive souvenirs, trinkets. This fancy blouse is only $12. You can get some pretty good prices here. In a future episode of World Traveler, we'll take you inside a major souvenir shop and show you the full range of items. So is this, what material is this?
This is amber.
Amber. What is amber?
This is sap.
Tree sap.
Yes.
It's very old. It's
A very old, only milk amber. This is milk amber.
Oh, that's
this
old.
color, yes. This one.
So that's more expensive.
No,
How much are these average?
this necklace, this price $20 and $360 price. This one. Yes.
Thank you. In this land of contrast, you find the old with the new, this modern little shopping arcade, and in the midst of it, this ancient phone. Looks like it's some kind of Soviet military hardware out of the 1920s, but it's a functioning public telephone. You get these little nesting dolls. It's a great tradition in Russia. Again, the incredible facade, 1,000 feet long, the Catherine Palace.